This is part 2 of this. Notice I said the word perfect square in our earlier video. A square of an integer is called a perfect square. So I would memorize these perfect squares, honestly. It will make your life a lot easier. Like I said, I have 1 through 13 memorized. And I think it is very beneficial to memorize that. As a matter of fact, I may even have 1 through 14 memorized. Let me check myself. Yeah, I do. Cool thing about 13 and 14, and I'll show you here in a second, that it's just flipped. The 9 and 6 is flipped. 13 squared is 169. 14 squared is 196. And 15 squared is 225. Yeah. So I actually have 15 memorized. The more you actually have memorized when it comes to math facts, the easier your life will be when it comes to the math world. Because instead of having to work it out in a calculator, you already know what it is. Okay? So 1 squared is 1. 2 squared is 4, not 2. It's 4. 3 squared is 9. 4 squared is 16. 5, 25. 6, 36. 7, 49. 8, 64. 9, 81. 10, good, 100. 11, 121. 12, 144. I'm going to throw in some more in here. We have 13, which is 169. 14 is 196. 15 is, 225. Okay. I encourage you to know these. Not just like not knowing how to put in the calculator when it comes to these. I would encourage you to have these on top of your head. Like, memorize them. I'm not going to make that a requirement, but if you want to get through your homework assignment in a timely manner, I would know these by heart. Okay? I would be able to have these somewhere stored in your memory, because when it comes to your homework assignment in this class, when it comes to your homework assignments in geometry, when it comes to your homework assignments in Algebra 2, it would be very beneficial if you have these memorized. Okay? I had an Algebra 1 teacher who forced us to memorize these, and I was so glad that she did, because honestly, I was able to get through her homework assignment in maybe 4 minutes, if that, because I knew these. I didn't have to go to the calculator and work it out. Okay? There is nothing wrong with going to the calculator and working it out, but it does take a little bit more time unless you had these memorized. If you had these memorized, your time would be cut almost in half. Okay? But again, there is nothing wrong with having to use a calculator on the homework assignment when it comes to this. Notice I said integer. All these are actually whole numbers. And matter of fact, they're not just whole numbers as well. They're also counting numbers. But integers imply their opposites. Okay? So if I was to ask you what the integers are, I would also include the opposites of these. So the square root of -1 is the exact same thing as 1 squared. Because isn't this -1 times -1 being a square? Yeah. So negative times a negative is a positive. So even these guys, all these guys are the same. And I can go all the way through here and write the opposites of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But I think you guys get the picture. -4 squared is 16. -5 squared is 25, excuse me. And so forth, okay? So perfect squares are pretty easy, or pretty important. Like I said, if you have it memorized, it's awesome. If you don't, it's okay. It's just going to be a little bit more time consuming on your homework. All right. Then this is why. Because we want to estimate the square root. All right, how can I do that? Well, what is perfect squares that are close to 10? Well, if you said we have what? 9. 9 is on the lower side of 10, right? What else is next? 16 would be, correct? 9, 16. Well, what is 10 closer to? Is it closer to the 9 or is it closer to the 16? Good, it's closer to the 9. And what is the square root of 9? 3. So my estimate to this answer is going to be 3. Because the square root of 9 is 3. And the square root of 16 is 4. But since 10 is closer to 9, this is going to be 3. Okay, well, let's say if you didn't have those memorized. If you didn't have this memorized, again, no big deal. I can come in here. I can take the square root of this guy. So square root of 50 is going to be 7.07. And this, I do want to actually apply the rounding rules to this. So, and I wanted to round it to the nearest integer. Integer means no decimals, okay? So, what is the nearest integer to this? Well, I want to round it to the ones, if that's the case. So if I'm talking about integer, I want to round it to the nearest ones. So, in order to do that, I see here's a 7 and here's a 0. If it is 5 or greater, I round up. If it is 4 or less, I do what? I drop it off. So, looking at 0, what do I need to do with this? I just need to drop it off. So the estimate to this would be 7. Now, if I knew my perfect squares, I could have said, hey, this is 49 and 64 is closest to. That's what they're closer into. Square root of 49 is 7. Square root of 64 is 8. Well, 50 is closer to 49. So therefore my answer is 7. And you even found that out because in the calculator it had it really close to 7, isn't it? I mean, 7.07106 is not that far off from 7. Okay. So, go ahead and pause the video on this one and work these two problems out. Go ahead and pause the video on this one and work these two problems out. Assuming you pause the video and you work these two problems out, again, I want you to estimate it to the nearest integer, all right? So on this one, I'm going to flat out say this is 9. Why can I automatically say that this one is 9? Yeah, because 81, isn't the square root of 81 9? And if I was looking for the exact answer to this one, I would say 9.7. But I'm not looking for the exact answer to this one. I'm looking for an estimate. Remember, I'm looking for an estimate. Estimate is not exact answers. Okay, 37.5 might be a little bit more difficult for us. Again, I can plug into the calculator and hit 37.5 square root and come up with 6.12. And again, I want to round it to the nearest ones. So therefore, I would round it to 6. And that does make a lot of sense because the perfect square that's closest to 37 is actually 36. It's 36. And then your next one is 49, which is 7. And again, 37.5 is closer to 36. Therefore, my answer is 6. All right. And again, on this one, 81 is a perfect square. That is 9. The next one is 100. Well, 81.49 is really close to 81, isn't it? So therefore, my answer is 9. Okay. What about doing a rug? It's the exact same thing, guys. But this one you might actually get the exact answer because isn't 64 a perfect square? Yeah, it is. So what's a perfect square of 64? It's going to be 8. And this one you got to be careful with. Because if I'm trying to find the area of a rug, aren't I taking this length and this length times itself? Okay, so is this 8 feet squared? Or is it 8 feet? Good, it's 8 feet. So you need to tell me that this is 8 feet. Right? And all it's asking is the rug with the area of 64. I want to estimate its square root. So I'm trying to find one side of it. And one side of it is going to be 8 feet. All right. Let's see. That concludes part 2 of our video.